He got 3% inflation when Biden went out, and it's still 3%. Prices have gone up in a lot of categories. There were counties that had flipped for Donald Trump that went immediately back for that terrible candidate.
The reality is that this affordability issue, that's not Donald Trump. He's still managing the detritus left behind by Biden, but right now the effects of which everyone is feeling.
All right, guys, I have a few clips from Fox News The 5 with Jessica Tarlov sounding off on her MAGA co-host for us to jump into. If you can, take a moment, leave us a like on the video. It helps us out a ton of the algorithm. We really want to get to 30,000 subscribers, and let's just get right to the breakdown.
Jesse says, he fixed the Biden economy. He got 3% inflation when Biden went out, and it's still 3%. Prices have gone up in a lot of categories. People can't afford things like school supplies. They're defaulting on their credit cards.
It should also be noted that Trump inherited 3% inflation on a downward trend, which continued down in his first couple months of the administration, only for his literal first action as president, the Liberation Day tariffs, to reverse that trend and send inflation now soaring up with like specific categories through the roof. Groceries are over 3.2%, and all of it is very economically undesirable. There's just not really a good way for them to spin this. So they're doing like it's actually Biden's fault routine, keep the cold in on it. But the problem is we're 10 months into Trump 2. Nobody's really buying that anymore. And I think the recent election showed that.
Jack Ciattarelli ran a great campaign in 2021 and got within a few points of Phil Murphy in that election. And there were a lot of smart Republicans that were saying that they thought that he was going to win, that Mikey Sherrill was a weaker candidate than Spanberger. And there were counties that had flipped for Donald Trump that went immediately back for that terrible candidate, Mikey Sherrill, couldn't string a word together. And when I think things really turned to produce a margin of this size, which the pollsters do have some explaining to do, that it was a 13-point margin and they were talking, 5-6, Jack Ciattarelli in that debate gave Donald Trump an A grade and said essentially what Kamala Harris did on The View. I wouldn't do anything differently.
There's also just the fact that we're seeing dysfunction from a Republican trifecta right now, front and center, that all Republicans have to run against. Like, we're seeing their policies lead to market collapse, massive inflation in specific sectors, recession talks, and job loss, all culminating in the longest government shutdown in history, beating the record held by the last time Republicans had a trifecta. So it's like, oh, well, what are you really going to do differently? Where, again, and also all polling shows all Americans consistently blame this on Republicans. It just led perfectly into these elections. It gives us all the momentum we need to carry that then into the midterms, taking back the House, doing the necessary oversight, and of course, piggybacking off of that into 2028.
Democrats finally showed some fight, they said. And they said first, they were holding up signs at the no oligarchy and no kings, and we filibuster, and now we're voting. But as everyone has said here, it wasn't unexpected whatsoever. It's the same people that vote at midterms. It's the absence of the Republicans or the common sense thinkers that actually don't vote along party lines. That is what we were missing. They said it was a bad night for Donald Trump. But as Dana, you explained earlier, it was about a lot of the shaping and the yoking to the president that these candidates did, that it wasn't enough in the combating ads and the narratives to be able to surmount. The reality is that this affordability issue, that's not Donald Trump. He's still managing the detritus left behind by Biden, but right now the effects of which everyone is feeling.
Okay, so much is wrong here. First off, higher voter turnout favors Democrats, right? So off-year elections where less people vote, these lean towards Republicans historically. That alone shatters what she's trying to say here, which is just cope. It just seems that like Trump is popular. That's not really the right word, which we'll get into, but Republicanism as a brand is not, and his policies sure as hell aren't. And like I was like, when I say popular with Trump, I don't mean in terms of favorability where he's massively underwater, but more in terms of like name value. Like he's a known name, which when he was running against a candidate who was running on 100 days, I think that's what allowed him the narrow win we saw him get. The problem with the whole, well, this is all Biden's fault thing 10 months into Trump 2 is all trends were going down when Trump came in and all trends are going up now. Manufacturing was booming massively under Biden. We've had numerous months of manufacturing job loss under Trump. This is inexplicable if we're saying all of these problems are arising because Biden. There's literally no way to tie it to him. So just weakly blaming it on him anyway isn't going to resonate with anyone outside of the cult, which as we're seeing isn't enough to win you any kind of election that you're going to need to retain any kind of power. So good luck, MAGA, and enjoy it while it lasts.